All right, guys. Hey, this is Jason Enos again, back for some more live inking. It's Friday at noon. I was trying to get started at 10, but I had kind of a personal thing that came up last night that kept me up pretty late, and actually nobody's watching right now because no one knows how to find me. Let me do my little thing about sharing, so I can get everybody on here. Inking, live inking now. Trixie Dynamite, which I will now post. And I'll also try to share this on one of my pages. Share on a page I manage. There we go. Everything's working. I'm going to go ahead and go to Twitter. And Adelson Sun's got an amazing at Trixie Dynamite. Trixie Dynamite. Whoa, what's going on, Ultra Pro? No, not Ultra Pro. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to set this all to Twitter and tweet and everything. Whoa. Live inking now at Trixie Dynamite. At Ben Schwartz, the editor, and at ECV Press. There we go. And I got one more link to share, guys. Sorry it's taking a while. It's not found in the browser. Retry. I'm having some tests being done to see if it works, because all right, anyway, what I'm doing right now is I'm sending out my links to everybody via Facebook, Twitter, it takes a while to get this all set up. I don't want to hype something that I'm not ready to broadcast yet, because I don't know when I'm going to start. And I might have to start going and picking a hard and fast time to spread the word quickly. Whoa, neat. Oh, okay, I can't afford that. There's a auction going on for Adam Hughes' art that I can't afford an auction. I won't be able to win that. I don't have the kind of money it takes to win an auction. All right, let me see if I can. Now you have to try the link again. What I might have to do is I might have to swap this to make my video in YouTube. I've heard that's what you have to do sometimes with the channel. So let me see if that's the proper link. There we go. I am live, aren't I? There we go. All right, anyway, let us see. Let us see what we are doing here. Oh, did I tweet it yet? I'm sorry, I'm being like a social media jerk right now. Inking will begin in like 5 minutes once I get everything all situated. Once I get everything all situated, as they say. I need to message Ben. Where is Ben? All right, I wonder if it'll let me manage my YouTube channel. About videos, playlists. Oh, it does actually have my picture on there. It actually shows up. Where's the channel settings? Home. Videos. Jason Enos Art Music. What do you do? Oh, Video Manager, I think is what you do. I read a tutorial about this last night. Uploads, community channels, channel settings. Here we go. Where's the home? Man, I close creation tools, firefighter, in video program, monetization, community video manager. There's a way to set one search history, copyright notice, tags, playlists, live events, uploads, dashboard. I think is what I need. Add a channel trailer. Here we go. It might kill my broadcast. And it's not working. It is not working. All right, never mind. I guess you'll just have to try the link, and if it doesn't work, try the video afterwards, I guess. I'm not trying to be a jerk. It's just I don't know how to make it work. Click here to start customize your dashboard. Videos, comments. Okay, I don't know what that is. Never mind. Point is, oh, I got Twitter open twice. No, I don't. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I have it open twice. Anyway, I have to share on digital webbing now. Over my live page. Where did my live page go? My posts. I'll find it. I haven't been on digital webbing except to check for job postings in forever. My browser's starting to freeze up too. I gotta get this stuff done fast before I lose my internet. Show all statistics, find all posts by me, and here we go. Here we go. I might not have to do ECP press. It's going slow. Oh man, I got coffee on my. I've got coffee on my glasses. Hang on, guys. This is the boring part of the videos because my computer doesn't like doing multiple websites at once, and that's the hard part, is getting everything out there for the world to see. All right, where is it? Here we go. Inking live now. Share the link, post quick reply, and close this out. Now we got that closed out so we can maximize time. Oh, you can see me! Hold on, wait a second. I've got a line test. Okay, I do see you in the viewer list. Great, thanks. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Wanted to test everything, and Twitter's got it. Let me send one quick message to the editor of the book, and then we're good. Well, we're almost good. Anyway, while that's loading up, it's slow as paced. Live inking now. Send Ben the link. And also, he shared a post of my video. Here we go. Live on air now. Share the link. I'm sharing it everywhere, guys. I'm sorry I'm like blanking bombing everything. You probably see me lighting up everywhere if you follow me on Facebook. I'm just trying to make sure that everyone knows where it is in case you only follow me one place and not another. Where's my original post? Did I tag? I Twitter tagged that. And cool. That's cool. I think Allison Saunders, and sorry to go on a sidetrack, I popped up with a notification and it was saying that I got a response from Adam Hughes. He was, he'd posted some pages for Batman Black and White that he worked on, and I was like, oh, what kind of paper was that? And he his wife Allison, who does a lot of his online postings, responded, which was kind of nice. But I'm gonna see if did I tag Trixie? Okay, I did tag Trixie in my Facebook link. So if you go to Trixie Dynamite, let me see if I can put it on the page too. Okay, yeah, I can put it on the page too. Live inking now. All right, and now that I've got this done, we will be on with the work. Okay, cool. Once it finally processes, good. It's everywhere now. Anyone that follows anything that I'm even remotely attached to at this moment now knows that I'm online. So let me minimize all my things except my Facebook, and now we're ready to go. Okay, cool. Like I said, I've shared the page. If you can see the video feed through YouTube, you should have the link for that. If not, you probably can do it through the actual, I'm trying to say if it's in the, oh, that's the link for the video, sorry. What happened was, can I delete this? Anyway, I shared the picture, the actual page that Ragsack had drawn on DeviantArt, which I put in the link in the description of the video that will finally come up on the broadcast. So you can kind of see it here. It's not so great because it's kind of like you can see it in daylight. But that's panel 1. I'm going to start actually on the bottom, which is the Puggernaut. I'm loving that because it's the first time I've inked the Puggernaut since issue 1, and literally the first time I've done the Puggernaut traditionally inks. So I'm going to get started with that without any further ado. Let me see if I can get that angled downwards. Oh, no, I got a little coffee on the page. Where'd that come from? Probably when it splashed on my glasses. It'll be all right, though, because once it dries, I'll just wide around it and you won't see it. Trying to see if I can get a better angle on that camera, guys. Sorry if it's kind of like really a tight angle and you can't see nothing. I need it to be propped a little higher in the back. One more book and I should have it. Or can I angle it down even more? Yeah, I can angle it down even more. All right. Can you see what's... Yeah, you can see over there. I'm using my standard ink I use, Black Star ink, because it does scan pretty well. You don't get a shine on it. There's also Black Magic ink, but it's so runny. I'm not a big fan of it. And standard tool that I use for inking. I'm going to use this for the Puggernaut. I can't wait to get these big fat lines. And that's my number 2 Winsor Newton. Can you see it? I think you can, but it's backward from me. There we go. It was upside down anyway. Winsor Newton Series 7, number 2 brush. Whenever I load my brush, I always dip it in the ink, twist it around, get a nice fine point. With the Puggernaut, though, I can see these lines are big, fat, and wide, so I don't need to know if I need to worry about having a fine point. That's why I want to get started with it now, get my brush warmed up, you know. Just get started with some big, fat lines here. And just go to town on it. I like starting with the bigger, fat lines because it gets your brush warmed up. You're not going to worry about accuracy because if it's a big, fat line, who cares? You know, it's just as long as it looks kind of nice. You know, the whole point of having a big, fat line is to have a big, fat, graphic-y, punchy line, and it's a little gross. It doesn't really matter too much. And I don't know, I'm partly tempted to leave little white holes somewhere in places just for artistic kind of value on it. But I don't know if I'm going to do that. It's going to depend. I'll kind of leave them in there. If I don't like the way it looks, I'll fill them back in. But that's, again, it's going to be one of those decisions I'll make as kind of synergetically as I go along. This part of the page is going incredibly fast. That's why I'm doing this panel first. One thing I really love about Alexander Ragsack, his panel borders are pristine. I mean, you can see where his panel borders are. It's like, I don't even need to worry about, oh, where's the panel border start? If I want to rule a straight line, you know, this guy thinks a straight, I mean, pencils a straight line. All I need to do is worry about filling in the inks and then clean up the borders where, you know, because he runs over the border a couple places, but you see where the border is. So all I do is stop inking where the border starts. He's already told me where to do it, you know, which is kind of nice. All right, here we go, another eye piece. See, it's lines like this big fat one right here. I don't know if you can see how wide it is, but it's big and wide. And it's like, do I want to fill it all in black, or do I just want to kind of play around with it? I'm kind of getting low on my ink too, but I've probably never used this much ink in my life, as much as I've used in the last couple months. I've used all kinds of different ink, and I've been using my brush ink a lot more lately. See, these kind of lines, the lines are on the corners of the eyes. I am not going to make those big and chunky. These big shadow lines, like the brow and stuff, oh yeah, these are big, fat, chunky lines. That's what makes inking fun. These big, fat, chunky lines. I rotate the page a lot. I don't know if I've ever talked about that, but you should never ink the page from one position. I don't understand how people tape down a page and like, oh, I taped down the page. La la la, I'm going to not move the page. To me, my philosophy is you should always be inking the page that follows the natural flow of your arm. You don't want to fight the natural biology. I mean, your arm has a natural curve. It arcs out. It arcs out like this. You know, it makes a curve. You're the center of the circle, and it never made sense to try to fight the center of the circle by drawing like this towards yourself. It always seemed like to me a recipe for just making it harder on yourself, and I never understood the point of that. Why make it harder on yourself if you don't have to? It never makes sense to me. Anyway, I'm super excited to do this. I've probably said this like a million times. But when I first got Trixie Dynamite, I was so excited because it was the first book I've ever really inked. I mean, I've done practice inks, but it's the first published book I've ever inked. And I was super grateful to Ben Schwartz, who edits the book. And I was so excited about it. I can't even tell you how excited I was. I was on cloud nine for like probably a month. Still kind of am. It's a big responsibility to be inking a book. Even though I'm inking only a story in the book. But still, I don't take that responsibility very lightly. I'm always asking Ben for his feedback. He's always good for it. And that's the other thing, too. I'm not saying this just because I'm working on Trixie Dynamite. I'm saying this because it's the truth. You cannot find great editors easily. Editors that are forgiving, that are easy to communicate with. That's the problem that always hurts me with art in general. Poor communication. People who say, I want this, and then you do it, and it's like, no, I was hoping you'd do it this way. And it's like you were hoping, if you wanted something you hoped for, you should tell that to your artist. And this is something artists fight with. It's not me. I know I've read posts from frustrated artists. It's pretty much a common problem. Editors don't know how to speak their minds sometimes. I mean, it's not art editors. It's any kind of person that commissions art. But that's what's different with Ben, because Ben really does communicate his mind. And if he doesn't care, if he says, make up your own decisions, he'll literally say, make your own decisions. I trust you. And it's never, I guess if you kind of do this right, I'll tell you what I want. It's like, no, Ben really does tell you what he wants, which I love. You can't buy good editors. And if you could, I probably would put Ben on a shelf because I'd put him for any artist to buy because he's got a good sense for being an editor. Like if I come to him and say, hey, Ben, what do you think about this? He'll usually tell me what's going on. If it matters, if it says, just make your own artistic choice on that, he gives me some leeway on it. But that's the good thing about Ben. He doesn't go like, well, I kind of hoped that you'd do this, which is the most annoying thing. It's like, tell me from the beginning what you kind of hope for, so I don't waste my time on something that's not going to be something you wanted. Ben never does that, and that's what I love about Ben as an editor. And like I said, that's what's so great about working on this project, because Ben is never, one of those guys that kind of changes his mind. And plus, I've tried to pencil for this. My penciling skills, kind of working on them still. I hope you can see this okay, because I'm kind of working very far away from the camera. Let me see if I can scoot the camera up some. To give you a better angle on it. There we go. Because I am kind of on the edge of glory, so to speak, on the camera sense. But that's the one good thing about that. And I tried penciling for it, but my penciling skills aren't quite what they could be. I mean, I can draw, but drawing and penciling a comic book are two different things. Drawing requires, the skill to be able to draw what you see. Penciling a comic book is more than just drawing what you see in front of you, because you can find photo references that'll do anything. But you have to be able to tell the story as well. And that's where I'm suffering. I'm still learning on how to tell a story. And just in general, that's my weakest point, is the storytelling element. And, excuse me, that's the part that's, like I said, I'm struggling with. So I tried penciling, and I didn't quite make it. And then I was like, oh well. And I thought to myself, I'm like, no, I'm just an inker. And then I went to Jonathan Glappion's page. I was like, wait, he's just an inker too. There's no shame in being just an inker. Inkers are very important. And that's another thing too. Just because you're an inker doesn't mean you're a poor artist. It just means you do a different kind of art. And the reason I'm telling this story is because when I first got my pages, after I tried out to be a penciler first, for issue 2, I got pages for inking, and I was like, okay, I'll just do the inking. And I didn't quite. And when I saw the pages that Ragsack was making for issue 2, that I'd also tried out for be a penciler, I was like, no wonder I didn't make it. His pages were incredible, and I've always loved his pages. They're always full of character and life, and I'm just like so excited about getting pages. Like literally, it's like Christmas when I open up my inbox when it comes to like a page from Alexander Ragsack. It is amazing. The life that comes in the pages, the characters, the way they look. It's like a big, bold, cartoony style. And I always look at the pages and go, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to draw this? What am I going to do to render this in ink? And it's a challenge that I gratefully accept, because it's always such a joy to go, okay, how am I going to solve this problem? And there's one page, I don't share it because it's a big storytelling spoiler, it was actually the first time I did Trixie on a Bristol board, because usually I do it on typing paper, which I think you're seeing me a bit right now. I'm doing it on typing paper. It's just really expensive to print in Bristol, and I just don't have the budget for it to do it large scale for 8 pages for Trixie. And that's not the best line in the world. So but there was one time I was like, man, this has got to be done with cross-hatching, and I didn't have the method to remove the blue pencil very cleanly. So I said, okay, what am I going to do with this? And so I just went ahead and said, okay, I'm going to have to hatch it do a hatch, cross-hatching on a light box. So I whipped out my light box because I knew to do the page justice, I would have to do it. And if anyone's got a copy of Trixie Dynamite, I'm referring to issue 2, page 7, I think, page 7. So if you've got a copy at home, if you have a copy and you're wondering what is he talking about, look at issue 4, issue 2, page 7. The top right corner. The top left corner. There's a character that's like in the shadows, and it's in the foreground, and Trixie's behind her on the ground. And that character, her costume, all of that was hatched. And I knew I had to do it. To do the page justice, I would have to hatch it, doing all cross hatching. And there was no way to do it unless I did it on a piece of clean Bristol board. So I'm always looking for ways to do the page justice, because when Max X sends me a page, I want to do it justice, because he gives me some amazing pages. I ain't gonna lie. There's some pages you get and you're like, I don't know. There was some new pages from the new book I got. I was like, I don't know how I feel about it yet. Once I inked it, I was like, oh, wow. Like, I didn't see the potential until I inked it. Once I inked it, then I could see what the pencil was saying. And then I was like, yeah, this is beautiful. I'm talking about issue 3. It's not even out yet. Here I'm inking issue 4, and issue 3 is not out yet. But I wasn't sure how I felt about it at first, the pages from issue 3. And I looked at it, and I was like, once I inked it, I was like, oh, now I see it. And then I had a vision for the piece. My brush is dirty, by the way. You can tell when the brush is starting to get dirty, kind of, when it starts to get kind of, let me see if I can get a good picture of it. The bristles start to get a little flayed out. And when that starts to happen, it's time to clean the brush. Oh, I don't know. I can get a few more lines out of it, I think. You know what I might do? There are some shading lines down here he's drawn that are kind of like little rough lines. I want to see if it looks really good doing that. Well, I don't like that line. You can't. It doesn't look bad. It doesn't look great, but it doesn't look bad. If a line stands out, I'll fix it. If you don't look at it, and if you look at it and it doesn't look like it's anything too odd, I don't know. I'm just trying to second guess it, so maybe I will eventually white it out and do it again. But when I need to clean my brush, I use this brush soap, put a little bit of water on it, clean it out. There is brush cleaner. I'm always afraid to use brush cleaner. This stuff, because I'm afraid it's going to dissolve the brush. Is it causing a kind of interference thing? Or is that just because my screen's angled down a lot? It's because my screen's angled down a lot, I think. But I'm always afraid to use those kind of solvent type things, just in case they start dissolving the glue that holds the bristles into the end of the brush. It's probably an unfounded fear, but the brush soap works just fine, so why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And this brush had a lot of ink in it. That's the one thing that used to kill me earlier on when I was doing my early inks, when I was just learning how to ink, was I didn't understand that you have to clean the brush quite frequently. Because the ink can't get out of the brush fast enough. It just dries and builds up in the brush, even if you're constantly using it, even if you're constantly dipping it in wet ink. It's constantly going to be getting dirty. Even if you continue to get the ink out of it. I just use a cheap Solo cup full of water. And then sometimes what I'll do is I'll twist it. I don't know if you can see it. Probably not, because gravity fights against me. Maybe at that angle you can see it. No, you can't. But what I do is I push the back of the brush, not too hard, because you don't want to snap the back of the brush. But I'm usually pushing the brush like this, so that I'm getting the stuff out of the back end of the brush, because it'll pile up there. And if it gets dry back there, it'll make the bristles go like that. and then the brush is pretty much unusable unless you want to use it for like really weird textures. But to get these fine lines, it's not going to help you anymore. Well, I'm going to be bored for that for a minute. I'm going to try to ink in some of these border lines. I need my other ruler for this, I think. Yeah, let me get my other ruler. I left it in the other room. Let me run get that. Cork back metal ruler. I almost never use the cork back side. Just a standard cork back metal ruler. I don't use the cork back side because it lifts it off the paper, and I want a nice clean hard edge on the paper. Micron pens, because all my local stores are jerks and sold out of their microns. I've snapped so many tips. Sold out of the Copic markers, and I'm almost out of ink on all these microns, so I might have to switch to my pit pens. The microns are wonderful, but once you snap a tip, they're no good anymore. And that's what I hate about microns. They break so easily. Just ruling in a line or two. The tips on a micron break so easily. And that's the one thing I don't like about microns. They give you a nice line. It's not quite as dark as I'd like either. And that's why I like the Copics when I tried the Copic multiliners. They seem to give a really good, consistently black line, which is kind of a good thing. It's not 100% crucial that I get these lines marked in, but I don't know. I just want a nice clean border for a change. And when I'm doing these broadcasts, my dog goes kind of berserk. She doesn't know what to think. She's like, why is he talking out loud to himself? Usually I do that when I'm in a very foul mood, and I'll start going on some kind of tirade. Well, I've got my pen out. I'm going to ink in some of these bubbles here. But when I lose my temper, sometimes I talk out loud to myself. And so when she sees me doing this, she's like, oh my God, she's having a temper tantrum. I'm a very emotional person, so she thinks that I'm just lashing out or something. And I'm like, no, honey, I'm talking so the whole world can hear what I'm doing here. What size circle? This one. You'd be amazed. You have a circle template that has almost every size circle in the world you'd think, and then you get the drawn circle, and you're like, oh, there's a circle size I need that's not on there. I'm doing the bubbles and circles. Ragsex circles aren't perfectly round, but I think I'm going to draw them round just because they'll read as bubbles better. And I think if people see an ovular bubble, people will be like, wait, that's not a bubble. Bubbles are round. I think he just kind of penciled them in quickly, just to kind of give an idea of what where they're going to go. Because I mean, with these sorts of things, you don't have to be religiously stringent. I mean, a pencil is just here to tell you what goes where. And I'm pretty sure he's not going to send me a message through link. I follow him on LinkedIn. I'm pretty sure Ragsex not going to send me a message saying, "You changed the shape of my bubbles. What did you do? You ruined the page." Probably that's not going to happen. I mean, some bubbles can be ovular, but I think I'm going to go ahead and just this one. This one looks like 2 actually. Let me pick this one. Do a little tiny one off the bottom. And I might do the little highlights in my new tip I bought for my pen. It's a funny story about my Crow pen, and I'll show you my Crow real quick. This is my Crow. Whoops. Oh, that's right. I put my tips in my bag so I wouldn't break them. That's my funny story, actually. This is a Crow pen. It's a holder, actually, and you put the little metal tips in it. Well, I was doing the Glapion method, Jonathan Glapion's method of taking a credit card and flicking with the pen, the little metal point. And I was doing this at work because it's a little messy. And while I was doing it, the tip broke. I snapped half of it off. And I was like, okay. I had to look around really quickly for a loose metal point that was broken. Luckily, it just landed in my lap on my desk. But I was like, okay, now I don't have a Crow tip. Luckily, the tips are only $1 a piece. And I imagine that you probably break them pretty easily because a lot of artists will buy them in bulk just so they've got extras. And I've now got 2 tips on reserve, a 102 and a 107, I think. I've never used a 107. I might try a 107 just to see what kind of results it yields today. So it might be kind of a fun experiment. You guys will see me working out with a 107 tip for the first time, which will be kind of fun. All right, let's go ahead and do this. I like the kind of rough look it has, but there we go. I don't know if you can see. Am I too far? Oh, I've got my hand in the way. Let me not get my hand in the way so you can see what I'm doing. By the way, if any of you guys watching are having any trouble seeing, send me a message so I know, because I don't know if it's viewable or not. I don't want you to have a picture of the table, the piece of paper, and you can't see what's going on. I don't have all my media outlets open, but if you have a way to message me on this, I should be able to see it. Again, I don't know who's capable of messaging me on here. If it has to be, if you have to be a Google Plus person, I don't know. My wife has a Google Plus account, I believe, so I might have her kind of proof check stuff now that she's home. Because I don't want to do a live test of the video while I'm doing the video. I would love to have one done, but I know I've got people that are watching because I've done a test with someone else I know. But how much you're able to see, how much you're able to actually interact with me, I have no idea. So if you're trying to ask me questions and I can't answer them, I don't know if it's done. Okay, no. Because there is a console for text, but I don't know if that's for you or for administrators or what. So I have no clue how it works on your end. I know I've watched live broadcasts on Google Hangouts before. And I know I've done them before, but I don't know how they exactly. Whoops, let me go from this angle. I want a fine point and go into a tapered edge. Oh, wow, this brush is really loaded properly. I'm going to be able to do any kind of line in the world I want with this one right now. Put the cap back on that. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and catch this way. Oh, I love it. I love it when a plan comes together. And I might go ahead and do this. Yeah, so plan 2 is for this afternoon, is to probably do some Copic work. I've got a Copic marker piece I've been working on just for the heck of it, and I was like, it might be nice to do something other than inking for a change, do other art. And as I was thinking that, as I was showing different levels of progress, look at that! Look at the shading on the nose. I don't mean to be boastful, but look at that top of the nose. See, that's why I love these pages by Ragsack. You got these little things you can do, these little lines, and it just looks so awesome and graphic-y. Oh, Jules, it's okay. She's like, Daddy's being weird. My dog. She's like, Daddy's being weird. He's talking to himself. This is weird. Anyway, I plan on doing something other than inking for just one video, I'm going to do a cleanup video, like how I clean up a page. So I have a very unique method, which I tried to describe to friends, and I think when I described it to them, their eyes kind of glazed over with that, okay, he's saying some words, and I would like to understand what they mean, but I have no idea what he's talking about, which I understand because it's a pretty complicated method. It's kind of hard to describe Illustrator methods if you've never used the filters and everything set the same way. It can be kind of intimidating to hear all those words at once because, there's there's about 7 or 8 different filters and things that do very similar things. Oh, it looks so much better now. So I was like, let me not waste my time talking about stuff that's really confusing to see if you're not a computer. Because if somebody would tell me it, I'd be like, what did you say? That's really neat that you have ideas for Photoshop, but what did you say? Because I have no idea. I mean, I have to have my computer open with Photoshop open to know what people are trying to describe to me. And so I'm going to have to show it because it's a really complicated method to kind of describe, but it gets rid of all the blue pencil and leaves you with a very pristine scan of just the ink. And it's something I've toyed with for years, well, for months, felt like years to get right. And I wish I'd known this from Trixie 2, but it's something I discovered midway through Trixie 3, my second story. And if Ben ever publishes an anthology, where he does a reprint of everything, I could send him newer scans that are much better looking than the original scans I sent him. Not that I sent him really bad scans; they're really good, but there's a couple places where some information is not quite as pretty as it could look. And now that I know my new method, I can give him a scan that's almost like the original artwork, which is such a huge thing. Getting a scan that looks like the art is almost impossible. It is almost, it's like like a holy grail, because if you can just remove just the blue pencil, you have just the scanned ink. That is fantastic. But anyway, back to more lines. But that's one thing that frustrated me a lot with cleaning up blue pencil, was I could never get a good clean scan and remove the pencil. Because it's like, oh, you just select the blue in Photoshop. Yeah, but what happens when the blue is like a little tiny dot? Sometimes Photoshop won't find it. Then sometimes Photoshop finds your grays and not just your blues and removes the light grays you have. So any spattering you do with any kind of misty colors, those are gone. So what do you do when you have like these really fine points and you want to have all these little details captured? Well, you used to have to lose them until my method came up, and I was like, okay, awesome. So I can't wait to show that method off. That's going to be not a live video, but a live video feed from my desktop on my computer, or my wife's if she's got the right filters. Because all it's going to take for that video is the ability to see a desktop. Man, I just realized if I had a better camera and a better studio, I could even do live oil painting demonstrations. That's like my first love, but I haven't oil painted in so long. This almost satisfies my desire to paint. The only thing I'm missing is color, but inking is the next best thing to oil painting, I tell you. It's the same kind of concept, except with inking, it's a lot more of a tightrope because it's all black or it's all white or it's all gray. You can't fake it with the coloring. You can't go, oh, well, I just put a blob of color there and no one will see. There's nothing to do. It's all out there bare to see. So it's everything is about a beautiful brush mark. There's nothing being hidden, which is something very intimidating because you have to be. It's like being a performing artist on stage. Except in a performing artist on stage is a lot better than inking because if you clunk a note, people remember it, but they can't exactly, unless they recorded it, they can't go back and go, oh, let's hear it again. With inking, if you make a bad line, it is on the page, and unless you Photoshop it out or ink it over it or white it out, it's there for the world to see. There's no going back, and so it's kind of more of a tightrope. There's a lot more pressure to kind of do things, do things right the first time, kind of mentality. Let me put this up here. See, oops. I see if you can see it while I clean my brush, because I'm sure you don't want to be watching me clean my brush for the next 5 minutes. Well, it's not going to take 5 minutes. It's starting to get dirty, and I'm running out of ink too. Usually I squeeze out about as much ink as I can get while the brush is still clean. I've kind of got that down to a science. How much ink I can squeeze out and how much I can use at a time. I think you can see that pretty good. So I do that. This paper is not very absorbent. It's just cheap toilet paper toweling. That's okay because I can rub the soap on it like that. See that? Did it turn white on you? Oh, there we go. See how it turns kind of white? Did I rub the brush at an angle? So I try to get the soap out of the back of the soap into the back of the brush to get the ink out of the back of the brush. It didn't get super dirty, thankfully. It did not get super dirty. This page is going. This panel went pretty fast. I mean, how long have I been working on it? Like 30 minutes, which isn't bad because you figure a page should take you about a day, and I probably won't focus a whole day on this page because I've got other things I want to do, both personally and professionally. Personally, obviously I don't want to take my whole day off doing nothing but art online, but professionally I do want to do other videos today. Plus, I'm probably going to cut this off around 2 because if I lose, it seems like every Friday I've done these broadcasts, I've lost my internet precisely at 1:30. And if I lose my internet, I lose everything I've done until then, except the live broadcast. Like, the live broadcast continues, but the video doesn't share to YouTube. So that means I've lost everything I've done. And I'd rather have like a record of this. That's why I made sure before I even did this broadcast that Ben was okay with me sharing a page. Because if he's not, okay, yeah, there's a live broadcast. Once the broadcast ends, it's over. But there's also the flip side, which is if I don't delete it, there's going to be a video on YouTube until further notice of that page. So I don't want to share a spoiler page and have it be on YouTube under my channel, because it's not my book. I draw it, but it's not my property. It's Ben's property, and I don't want to be, stepping on his property. So I was like, Ben, how would you feel about this sort of thing? And he's been really busy because Ben runs ECB Press, which is a comic book store in Sacramento. And if any of you know your nerd culture really well, you know that I was joking today that it's a very busy weekend for all concerned, but especially this weekend. Saturday, tomorrow is Free Comic Book Day. So, what do you think happens when a manager of a comic book store has to get prepared for Free Comic Book Day? Yeah, they get pretty busy. So, I've realized that he's been ramping up for that for probably about a month now. I mean, it's probably taken him a month to get prepared, because I know retail. If they've got something, if a store has something on sale on September 1st, they got it probably August 1st. I'm sure anyone that works in retail can appreciate that. You know that it's the day the sale comes up, it's already been in the store for forever. When a movie when the movie is released, on Tuesday, they've had it in the store probably for about 3 weeks, maybe even just overnight. I mean, even if they came in Monday, they've had it for at least a day, or at least the weekend. And some stores will let their associates buy it early, just so they can have buzz and say, yeah, I've listened to it already, it's awesome, which is good business sense. But for the general public, even though it's in the back room, it won't be on the shelf until Tuesday. So Ben's been probably stocking up on the free comics that are for the promotions since probably a month ago. Look at that, borders. I hate drawing straight lines, but it's kind of a boring thing. But take a look at those. Take a look at that panel. The panel borders. Isn't that nice? It's all starting to come together. But anyway, he's been ramping up for that for a while. So I haven't gotten many responses from him. And I knew why. I knew it was because he's ramping up for Free Comic Book Day. So that's why I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I haven't heard from Ben, my editor, in a while. But it was because of Free Comic Book Day. So I got the okay from him this week to make sure I could do this online, because as I told Ben, I said I didn't want to step on any toes and share any property publicly that's not mine to share without his permission first. And I'm sure he's grateful that I did that, because I don't want to just, like I said, I don't want to just step on people's toes and say, oh, I'm inking it, so it doesn't matter. It's still not private. It's still not public information. Still not mine to share. All right. But that was pretty cool. And then Ben was asking me, hey, when you get online, share it. And I was like, gratefully shared. I'm a member of the Sketch a Day Club on Facebook through Empire Comics. There's a lot of Sacramento artists, both amateur and professional, and people that hold day jobs like I do, that draw on that. And even though I'm not, I appreciate that people let me be a member even though I'm not in Sacramento. I super appreciate that, because I love seeing their work. I love sharing my work. And I think if I ever go to the West Coast, I think the first place I would visit would be Sacramento now, because I really kind of want to see what it's like on the West Coast. And all day long I've been thinking, since last night I've been thinking, okay, most of the people that probably watch this will be fans of Trixie, or friends of mine, which means, but even so, the people that are going to be watching this for Trixie are going to probably be 3 hours behind where I'm at. So right now for you guys, it's probably, if you're watching in the West Coast, it's probably, what is it now, almost 1 o'clock Eastern, so it's about, 10, almost 10 Sacramento time. So in my mind, I've consciously thought, okay, who can watch this? Who's going to be at work or work an evening shift, or, I'm thinking the whole time about Sacramento too. And where I work, I talk a lot about different cities in the country. So I do some work with some businesses in Sacramento. So far, I think if I was going to visit any place out west right now, it probably would be Sacramento, just so I could, get a feel of the area, so to speak. We talk to so many people in the area, it's not even funny. Trying to decide what I want to do with that. Yeah, I'm going to want to ink those lines in more because there's a little bit of a white space right there. I don't know if you can see it really well. Not really well, but you can see it. See along the border? Whoops. There we go. See where those like little white spots along the border? That's kind of the way it was penciled, but this is one of those decisions I'm going to make. I'm going to assume Ragsack stopped because that was where the border was, and he meant to ink it all the way to the border. So that's one of those decisions that I'm going to make. And another thing I decided to do is leave that white space at the bottom because there's white space on this one that he clearly meant. So I'm sure there's white space over here was meant, but I'm sure the white space is here. We're not part of the plan. That would be my guess. So I'm going to ink those places in. Because a lot of inking is intent, trying to figure out the artist's intent. And like I said, Ragsack's pretty good about expressing his intent, which is a beautiful thing to have in a penciler. See, like that. That's way better. And that panel's done for the brushwork. I'm going to take my quill nib and put in those little spots. Well, I move on. All right, let me start at the top of the page, actually. There's a big tree up here. I don't know if you can see it really well. There we go. And I'm just going to go to town on the tree. I love trees. Anything organic is always fun to do because you can always use a loose brush and wiggle it and just make all these kind of really neat lines that you can't do with a pencil. And that's why you can do a comic book with pencil if you do it cleanly enough and you scan it and clean up the scan. But honestly, I think I would, and it's a huge time saver. I think I'd never do it because there's a difference between a drawn line and an inked line. And the inked lines to me are just so much cooler. Now I say that, but the thing is, Terry Dodson does this book in France. He's in Oregon. He's partnered up with a French author to figure that one out. And his book, he does that all in pencil, cleaned up and scanned. But his professional, like Marvel, well, all it's professional, but his stuff like publishers here in America, like Marvel, etc., his wife does all of his inking. But there's just a different quality of pencils versus inking. And I think a pencil page leads a lot more to a watercolor type style coloring, much softer style, which fits with the book he does for the French author. But I think an inked line is a much nicer line for just like general, more bolded patterning. It just looks so much more graphic and cool. I hope you can see what I'm working on this tree. I'm always worried that you guys can't see what I'm doing because I have to do it at an angle. I don't have an overhead camera. And if somebody feels willing to either A, let me borrow their camera if they're here in South Carolina, or B, wants to just donate me funds to buy me an HD camera I can mount somewhere, that would be fantastic. But I really don't think anybody's going to do that. So for right now, we're just going to use the good old laptop webcam. It does fine for what I do right now. Of course, if I get rich and famous off these videos, and which is going to happen because I didn't monetize my account, and even so, monetizing won't make you rich and famous. I will buy a camera probably if this takes off, if I get to be famous, if all this other stuff comes into place, or if I know. I mean, I've got a lot of friends that are in broadcast that do media. I work with someone. My sister was a broadcast major, so some of these people might have access to equipment that I may not have access to. Will they let me borrow it, or will I have any use of it? I don't know. But for right now, it's just me and my handy dandy webcam. Whoops. Let's see. Spilled a little ink on the side of the bottle, and that ink will get everywhere. So anyone that knows me will know when I was younger and I painted at age 12, my hands were the filthiest hands. You know you're an artist when you get paint everywhere, but I've learned to kind of avoid it for the most part. But when I was younger, if there was a spot of ink the size of a pinhead, and I touched one spot on a canvas the size of a penny, that spot of that penny would somehow cover that spot of that pin drop. No matter what I did, I would always find the one dab of wet paint. And it's kind of like that now, except now I'm kind of more aware of it, so I've kind of gotten to the point where I've learned to avoid that sort of thing. But I still
wind up doing it. And it makes me think of Ratatouille when she says, dirty apron, clean sleeves. That's the sign of a professional. And that's kind of me. Dirty hands, clean shirt. It better be a clean shirt, though. I'm wearing my Boba Fett shirt. I don't know if you saw it earlier, but my Boba Fett T-shirt. You may have seen it when I started the broadcast. Oh man, I can't believe I got one panel done. Well, it's almost done. I'm gonna get my crow quill pen out for the other stuff. And that's another thing too. I'm gonna talk about the philosophy I have for inking. Depending on the circumstance, I have a very specific philosophy, and I will go over the philosophy that I use for Trixie. For Trixie Dynamite, I usually use this philosophy. For straight lines, buildings, spaceships, panel borders, always pen, rulers, and curve tools, the French curves, which I would show you, but they're buried under stuff, and I don't want to get to them. They're here, there, though. For anything that is like rock, like this cliff face, rock, glass, hard edge, shiny reflection surfaces, I'll use a crow quill pen. Anything organic, Trixie, plant life, just in general, anything that's kind of like organic looking, I almost always use the brush. It just yields different line quality results, and I just think it gives you better results if you use a brush for something organic. I don't think I'd ever ink Trixie in, unless it was a super tiny picture of her. I don't think I'd ink her in anything else. If it's a big fat close-up, I'm going to ink her in a brush, unless it's like a far-away shot. Then I might take a pen or a crow quill just for accuracy. But even then, I'm probably doing a lot of it with the brush anyway. Man, I cannot believe how far behind I am today. I'm going to get this started at 10 and be done at 1, and it's barely coming up on 1 now, and I'm certainly not going to stop the broadcast. I'll probably keep going till either I lose internet or until 2. My goal is to kind of take a break at 2. I kind of have to run out and go do something real quick for about an hour, and then I'll be back with the marker demo. So this will probably continue to about 2, maybe 2:15, 2:30, and then the marker demo, which would be fun. And the good news is, if you're seeing this not live, you'll be able to click on the link and still see the video. So that's the good thing. That's the cool thing. Oops, the brush is getting dirty. Whenever the brush starts doing this weird thing where it starts making all these random lines, it means that the brush is either loaded correctly or it's starting to get dirty and it's starting to make the bristles spread out. And that yields a very poor result. And on a side note, I like the Winsor Newton brushes, but I want to try Raphael because it comes highly recommended from Jonathan Glapion. And I talk about him all the time, but there's a good reason I do. Jonathan Glapion is probably one of the most cool inkers there is out there. There's probably other inkers out there that are as good as him, maybe better, but I don't know. This man knows his stuff. And the thing that's so cool about Glapion is he is always experimenting. He never picks up a page and picks up a brush and says, okay, I'm drawing it with a brush. He never picks up a digital tablet and says, okay, I'm going to just do it all in Manga Studio. Done. No. He goes, okay, what would this be best in? And then he finds the tools that accomplish the results he wants. He doesn't stick to just digital. He doesn't stick to just with a brush and pen. He is constantly changing his tools to match the needs. And that is a very smart man. And anybody that can kind of keep going based on, oh, wow, okay, good. Well, that one wasn't so pretty. Anyone that is constantly looking for new ways and methods to do something and then shares them with the world to say, hey, look, this is what I've been up to. What do you think? And shares his knowledge with the world, that's a guy you follow. I met him once at Heroes Con last year in Charlotte. The guy was amazing. He was a great guy to talk to. Very humble. He will actually let you be his friend on Facebook. Just do not share everything in the world and tag him in it, because then his feed will blow up and he'll get upset and he'll delete you from his friend's account. Heck, I'll do that. I'm not even a famous inker. But I've never done it yet because nobody's been annoying with it. But he is a very nice guy. He will tell you everything that he's been working. Well, not everything he's been working on, but he will tell you what kind of tools he uses, how to use them, what works, what doesn't, all that stuff, which is nice. It's very helpful if you like to learn inking, and that's what I've done. Actually, the method I used to make this blue pencil was from his page, which is just Jonathan Glapion, Glapion for Glapion. G like George, L-A-P as in Peter, I-O-N as in Nicholas. And he's got a channel on YouTube. He's promised to be doing more videos soon. A lot of people, including myself, have been egging him on to do more videos because the man is a boss. There's a reason why he keeps winning awards through various agencies, because he just knows his stuff. He constantly tries new tools, constantly posts what the tools do, constantly gives his feedback, which is beautiful. And then at the convention, he was so funny because the guy was like, "Thank you for signing all my stuff," and then Glapion says, "Well, thanks for buying my art and feeding my family and paying my bills," because he was humble enough to realize, "Hey, you're my fan. If I didn't have fans like you, I wouldn't have a business." And that was kind of cool. It's kind of a really nice, kind of down to earth sort of philosophy. And he didn't say it with any kind of snobbiness or remorse or egotism. It was definitely kind of a humble, well, thanks, because you're the guys that love my stuff and keep me employed, which I thought was a kind of cool way to be for him, and it was really nice to see that. You could be like, "I'm Jonathan Glapion. I'm the famous inker. I inked Batman Court of the Owls," which incidentally is one of the best things to come out of the New 52. Court of the Owls, if you're not a comic book fan, if you just like Batman in general, is a really awesome story. The only thing that sucks about it is it does kind of do the hush thing of, Batman didn't see the answer that was in front of his face, but it does it in such a nice way, and plus the storyline is awesome. The way that Scott Snyder tells the story is really awesome, and not to tell a spoiler on it, but the best part of the book for me artistically was Batman in the Labyrinth, and the only way to experience it is to kind of read the book, because saying Batman in the Labyrinth doesn't really tell you what it's about. But it was done both visually interestingly, and the art on it's just incredible. Between Scott Snyder's storytelling, Greg Capullo's pencils, and Glapion's inks, it was just an incredible artistic achievement to see what was going on there. My brush is getting pretty dirty, so I'm trying to pick some big fat lines that I can use with my ink really quickly before I have to clean my brush. Wow. Yes, it kind of bled over a little bit. I've got ink to spare and no dirty lines to really ink in, so it's like, oh boy, I'm gonna have to waste some ink, it looks like. Kind of hoping not to waste it, but I might have to. There's all these cacti and yeah, see, it's starting to get really dirty now. Cacti and like mesa monuments. That's the good thing about being set in a future Sacramento. It's kind of closer to the desert of California, Northern California, I think, if I'm not mistaken. My geography of the West Coast is pretty crummy, but I'm pretty sure we're talking Northern Cali, where you get a lot more deserts like Tahoe, and you start getting closer to like things like more closer to like kind of the landscapes of like Reno, Nevada, and stuff like that. It's a little bit more desert-like. And I don't know much about the storyline of the futuristic Sacramentopolis, but I do know there's a lot of desert scenes, and I love that. You got the wonderful opportunity to draw the futuristic metropolis of Sacramentopolis, but I've definitely seen a couple issues of pages where Trixie has been like in a desert setting, and it yields for so much more cooler art, a lot more organic stuff, which is fun. and I'm looking forward to that. That's one of the things I like about this page is that you got, looks like a dinosaur or a lizard of some kind. I was going to do the mesas in the crow quill, but the problem is I don't know if I will because I've changed my mind on it. I was thinking about doing it, but the thing is the mesas are very far away. I don't know if you can see this really well, but the mesas are very, very far away. Where is it? There we go. See next to the lizard? The mesa right here. So I don't know if I want really super hard edges. The crow quill pen often will yield very, very sharp edges, which the rock will have sharp edges, but not at a very close distance, except in just a close distance, not in a very far away setting. So I don't know if I want to ink those lines roughly. You know, it's some of those things I have to kind of decide if I'm going to do or not. And I think I'm going to err in the favor of that. Oh, by the way, the coffee stains. I don't know if you can see the coffee stains. You can, yeah, you can see them. Little brown spots. When I get the ink lines around it, I'll white them out. You won't see them. That happens from time to time. I think there was a spot like that that happened on the page I did last time, the Injustice test page I did just for fun. But the thing about that is that the spot where it fell, the spot where my little coffee stain fell, was right in the spot that was going to be pure black anyway, so it didn't interfere with anything. I inked right over the top of it. You never saw it. So that worked out for the best, but for this page, it kind of splashed right in the middle. That's the one thing about Ragsacks and just in general Trixie Dynamite's pages. They're not very dark pages. There's a lot of line, but there's also a lot of white. It's not black and moody. It's a very sunny book, which is kind of also nice too. It's all ages, so that means that kids can read it. There's no cursing, at least not that I've seen from the dialogue I've seen. And as one reviewer put it, Trixie's skirt's kind of short, but it always stays at a decent location. It's always very polite and nice, and I agree with that. That was one thing I liked about the characters is she's got a very feminine look, but it's never sexualized or sexy. She's a girl, she's a woman, young lady or whatever. I'm guessing mid-20s, and she looks feminine, but she never looks, dolled up and pin-up-ish, which is kind of nice. And like I said, it's very light. There's a lot of bold blacks. I mean, look at that tree. I just half done. There is bold blacks to be had, but there's not big, sweet swaths of black and shading and stuff. It's very open. I mean, look at this. This is even in this setting, we're talking about a desert scape. This is a desert scape, and then we got this underwater scene for some reason, which I'm sure will make more sense when I see the book. But you got all this other stuff. I'm probably going to try to finish these two panels and then maybe do one of these other panels. What concerns me, though, is all this wildlife, all this under-ocean sea life. That's going to be kind of fun because there's a lot of tight little curves, and it's not going to look good with a brush. It's not going to look good with good with a pen. Good with a pen. So let me finish up this. This mesa I'll probably do with the crow quill pen, but the one in the further distance, the rock, I will do with the crow quill. But probably with this mesa here, I'm going to start with this one. Actually, let me go back over here. The reason I plan to go back, I usually try to do left to right, is because if something's still kind of damp, I don't want to rub my hand across it, which kind of makes a lot of sense, I'm sure. You don't want to smear stuff. That's why a lot of people start at the top and work down. So as they work down, they're working across the dry page that's not wet with ink. But I'll hop around a lot because this ink doesn't take very long to dry, and as long as I'm not spattering it or caking it out pretty thick, it's not going to really matter. Okay, this is not loading very well. Usually when the brush is kind of damp, I think I left it a little bit accidentally damp, it doesn't respond well with the ink. It doesn't want to make a very thin line. It wants to make a very fat line, which is not a bad thing per se, but depending on what you're doing, it's not necessarily a good thing either. You can sometimes make a more consistent line. But it also guarantees your line won't be any thinner than X wide, which can be a frustrating experience too. Can you see? Yeah, okay, you can barely see. I'm always worried you guys can see it because I'm afraid you're going to be getting a shot of my tabletop for like 20 minutes before you can actually see any art. And you're like, oh, that's great, awesome. Seeing your table, not what I came for. And always afraid of that. So I don't have my Twitter open. I think I've got Facebook open. I don't check it very often. And to be honest, because a lot of those agencies use Adobe Flash, and Mac does not really support Flash very well anymore. Sometimes, unless it's open, it won't alert me. So I have to have it actively open and sitting open on the desktop as the top thing. I'm not doing that because I need to actually have the video feed live up so I can see what's going on with the video feed. And the video feed will make noises saying, oh, this, that, and the other thing. But sometimes I may not hear the noises, and sometimes the noises don't really transmit. It's a little tiny cactus that I'm trying to do very carefully. Before I started today's broadcast, I was listening to Michael Dougherty, a piece he did called Ghost Ranch. I was going to share it on Facebook, but there's no, on YouTube, the YouTube video on my Facebook page, just kind of as a heads up. The reason I was going to is because it's kind of appropriate because Ghost Ranch is based on Georgia O'Keeffe paintings, so I thought, how appropriate, the desert. And in fact, it has to do with her, Ghost Ranch was the name of her ranch that she did a lot of her paintings at. And I thought, how appropriate, because it's kind of got, sounds like an old Western movie. He's a fantastic composer, Michael Dougherty. But nobody's shared it on YouTube yet. There's a couple great pieces on by Michael Dougherty that are on YouTube, but they don't have the same atmosphere as Ghost Ranch. I really recommend Ghost Ranch. It's a really awesome piece. The opening, Bone, is very reminiscent of a Western landscape. It sounds like you're watching an old Western movie, like an epic Western movie. Not like Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which is also an epic, but it doesn't have a spaghetti Western feel. It has like that classic American tragic Western feel to it. And as I brought up with a friend brought up to me, it doesn't have, Michael Dougherty's music doesn't have that clunky on the head Americanism that Copland has. It has a very subtle American touch. Like, it's unmistakably an American composer, but you're not sitting there going, oh, okay, I got it, it's American. It just sounds like folk music, which is beautiful. And for comic book fans, you may already know him from the Metropolis Symphony, same composer. If you don't know him, look it up, Metropolis Symphony. He literally did a symphony that is nudge, nudge, wink, wink about a guy in a blue suit that flies around a big city. I don't know if he could legally use the names, but Section 1 is called Lex. I think Section 3 is Mixoplick. So I think he got the idea of what it's supposed to be about, even if he can't legally use the name Man of Steel. But the last section is called the Red Cape Tango. So again, you kind of get an idea of who it's supposed to be about. It's a pretty good piece. Little corny at places, like the section called Krypton, which is clearly about Superman leaving Krypton. He does kind of do a really sly reference, which it's been used in the comic books before and the movies too, which is paralleling between Jesus and Superman, because the whole idea of sending one son to save the world, which is a beautiful kind of metaphor because it's true. And he carries it even further. Michael Dougherty carries it even further because they launched Superman. Is portrayed in Krypton, and he takes Silent Night, strangely enough, and modifies it. So he's drawing the metaphor between Jesus and Superman even more so. I didn't know how I felt about it at first, and then, like I said, I watched Man of Steel, the movie, and I was like, yeah, I guess there is kind of a aspect of, I would say, type of the Christ kind of aspect in the Superman story, in a slight sense. So at first I was upset with Dougherty. I'm like, what is he doing? And then I thought, well, wait, he's just drawing the metaphor even further. And I was like, yeah, I guess I'm okay with it for right now. But there was some brilliant stuff to be had in Michael Dougherty's music. You can't not see me working on this tree. There we go. I recently started. Oh, ugly looking line. Fixed ugly looking line. I recently started. Oop, this is really giving out the ugly lines right now. I recently started a Facebook page. Jason Enos Comic Art is the link, facebook.com/Jason Enos Comic Art, for one main reason, and that is con season is upon us. There's a lot of conventions. I forgot, like I was following, who was it? Yaya Han, I think it was, the cosplayer. And it occurred to me when I saw her page that she said she was at E3, and I was like, what is E3? Or whatever it was. And I remembered I was like, oh yeah, that's the one that's in Chicago. And then it occurred to me, oh my goodness. If that's going on now, con season's upon us, because that's like one of the earliest cons. Conventions. I'm not saying like a con game. I'm saying like a comic book convention. And then it occurred to me that, oh my goodness, we are truly upon, comic book season, because Heroes Con comes up in June. Don't have tickets yet. I'm definitely going, Lord willing. I'm going to Heroes Con. Barring all other interference and problems, going to Heroes Con. But it occurred to me that it literally is the start of con season. It's May. I always think of convention season starting in May. And there's a nice one here in my hometown in Greenville, South Carolina. And it's Heroes Con. I forget what it's called, but it's run through. If you go to the website, I think you can go to Facebook and find it if you're in the Greenville area, and that's through Borderlands. I forget the name of the convention, but it's going to be a pretty big name, pretty big convention. Lou Ferrigno is going to be there, which is kind of cool, and a couple other people that I know of. A couple other people that are going to be pretty well known. A couple artists I think I may have heard of. Probably if I researched it, I could figure out who they were. But I haven't had a chance to really kind of delve into it really in great detail yet. Probably going to try to go to that just as a fan. Might see some stuff I might want to get. Might see some friends of mine that work in comic books here in the area. And this is really making some ugly looking lines right now. I might have to clean this brush again. I'll have to do a more thorough cleaning too. It seems like it's kind of building up over the day. Usually the brush seems to be the freshest at the beginning of the day, because I kind of do really quick cleanings during the middle of the day. Not so great. Not so great on that. Yeah, I'm going to need to clean it. There's no third way about it. Just going to have to be cleaned. Just rolling the brush around the soap for a little while, trying to get it back into the back end of the brush. And let's see. That's all pretty dirty, so let me switch to this. Hope you all got a pretty good view of the tabletop right now. Yeah, you got a pretty good view of the tabletop right now. I'm sure you don't want to be seeing the background of my kitchen right now. So I'm glad you got a good view of only the table. Hope you can see me cleaning my brush. See how it turns white? That's how I know I'm getting it cleaner. Rolling it around the water. The water's off camera, by the way. That's why I keep running back and forth my brush back and forth towards. Getting it nice and clean there. My wife's up and running. I might have to ask her if she can tune into my broadcast, see if she can, how much she can interact with it. Here we go. All right, clean brush. And that's another thing too. Dirty ink. Oh, well, not dirty ink, but older ink. Ink that's starting to dry up. That will be less responsive to flow off the brush too. So that will usually have some problems too. Yeah, this is much better. There we go. Never use a dirty brush to ink with. You'll never get good results unless you want a really crummy looking texture. And by crummy texture, I don't mean like a really bad looking texture. I mean a texture that's rough and ragged, such as like, like rocks or brickwork, like I did with that Injustice page last week. Well, 2 weeks ago, I forgot to mention. The reason I meant to do a broadcast last week doing this, exactly what I'm doing today, but I had laryngitis or loss of voice or something from the cold and flu season or the allergy season that's been going around that everybody's been having issue with this last week. So I couldn't broadcast that. Like I said, I'm not doing a video silent. If you saw my announcement video for today, I'm not going to do a video silent. If I could listen to music, that'd be one thing. But if I listen, the minute I put on music, YouTube recognizes it, throws a ban out there, and then I'm like, oh, gee. That's just fantastic. And then I'm banned, and you can't listen to any music or hear any of my talking, and I don't want to lose that. The whole point of doing this is not to broadcast music anyway, but to actually just have me talking about different points and things. And if I have something important to say about art, I'll say that first, but sometimes I just kind of ramble on about random side notes. Your line's starting to get really kind of crummy already. I'm loading the brush in a hurry too, so not really getting a good load on it either, and it never pays to be in a hurry, but I'm kind of trying to get as far ahead in this page as possible. So I plan on doing another broadcast sometime next week probably. If I do, I will announce it when I do, like the day before. And really I'm just trying to get day to day because work has kind of been really rough. It's the busy season where I work. So it's been really kind of rough, and it's usually where I get a lot of my art done, believe it or not. I mean, well, of course it's where I get a lot of my art done. I mean, I spend most of my day, majority of my day is spent when I'm not asleep, of course. You spend a majority of your time at home asleep, but since I spend most of my time at work, usually I've got that's kind of the tree done. Usually that's where I get a majority of my work done is at work, most of my artwork. But it's been so ridiculously busy here at my workplace that I have not been able to get much work done there. And which I understand, it makes sense though, because that's not really what it's not my job to do art at work. It just happens that it makes a good environment for me to do it if it's not busy. And it's not busy, I've been extremely busy. So, and plus I have to talk all day at work too. That's a marketing job. And if it's busy, I'm talking every time it's busy because it's constantly being on the phone and talking. So between allergies, my cold, and the fact that I had to talk all day long, I haven't had a voice. So I've had to kind of, wait for my voice to come back before I could do these videos. And literally every day I'd come into work and I would be, you can't see what I'm doing now, I can tell that. I gotta move everything that's on the table at the other end of the table, so I've got to move the page over. There we go, now I think you can see it. Again, this is just to angle the page exactly where I need it to be for the get the best angle on this. And so I have to rest my voice to be at work, and every day I was at work, I was just hurting my voice worse and worse. And I would come home and literally do nothing but come home and say, "Hi, honey, I'm home." And then I wouldn't say anything for like hours, which, if you know me really well, it's kind of impossible for me. I'm really a talkative person. So to have to be quiet for like 24-hour period is, kind of tough. It was kind of tough on me. I'm a very communicative person, and I like to communicate. But I had to do it if I want to keep my job. If I call out too many times, I could lose my job, and that's paying my bills right now. I wish this was paying my bills. I wish art and video broadcasting and stuff like that was paying my bills, but right now that's just my fun thing I do. But by the way, if I haven't said this yet, I appreciate anyone that watches this video, or even just likes my work in general. I'll never forget the first day I had a follower on DeviantArt. It changed my life, kind of. It made me feel happy. Yeah, I don't have 1 million followers on DeviantArt. I have like maybe 24, 25, I think. Last time I actually looked at the number, it was like 13, but I know I've had like at least 6 more people join, I think. And it was humbling. I I never forget. It's not like I'm like, I don't care. I mean, I don't care about numbers in the sense that I'm not out there to get numbers. But obviously, I know the more viewers I've got, the more people know who I am, and the more my work gets out there. That I'm aware of. But I'm also not a numbers hog. I'm not the kind of person that befriends 80 people on Facebook, so I have a number 80, and it's not my goal to have a number on a page. But at the same time, I also know the more viewers I've got, the more fans I've got, and I really appreciate everybody. Whether you follow me on Facebook, DeviantArt, Twitter, and you just like my stuff, even if you don't follow me, even if you just click on something and say, wow, I like that, that was kind of cool, that one time I went to your page and you had this awesome piece. Also, I'm on Tumblr, but Tumblr I share so many other people's stuff, and it sometimes gets confusing what's mine and what isn't. And I don't want to give the impression that, ooh, that makes some interesting textures. I don't want to give the impression that some people's stuff that I'm sharing is mine, because I do share a lot of other artists' stuff. And again, I don't want to cause confusion that what I'm sharing is my own stuff, because it's not. So most of the stuff on Tumblr I'm sharing is probably not my own stuff. Dirty brush again. I might just do a quick rinse. See how dirty the water got? Kind of dirty. I can't wait to try a Raphael brush. The one I want is a size 3, because I don't want to get the same size I got in the Winsor Newton. I think I want to get a 3. I haven't made it in my mind if I want a 2 or a 3. But at this point, it's kind of a really expensive brush, so it's kind of a moot point. Man, I know what I'm getting at the store next time I go. More of this stuff. I'm almost out. I don't know if it's because it dried up or if it's because I'm just using more of it. So I mean, I've literally inked, what is it, 3, 4 stories now? This will be my 4th story I've inked in this, plus the Injustice page, plus my own fun stuff I've done. Which will bring me to another point I might talk about later. One of these days I might actually get a booth at a convention. I think I'm a long way down the road from that. The way I look at it is I've got 20 followers on Facebook, on my new Facebook page. Most of them are my friends. I have a handful of other followers that are in other parts of the world. At this point, if I take a booth, I'll sit there and I'll look pretty. There'll be nobody buying my art because nobody hardly knows me. Now, I know it's a good way to get to know people, but I think at this point, until I actually have a book that people will know, on the East Coast, and I know if I went to the West Coast and said, hey, I'm an inker for Trixie Dynamite, and I took a booth right next to ECB, I probably would have a lot of people interested. A lot of people would probably be glad to see me in Sacramento, I'm sure. But out here, the general public doesn't know who I am. Not yet. I mean, that's why I want to go to the Greenville convention so I can interview. Because the people I know in comics here are my friends, and they're also artists. So it's like other artists don't support other artists in terms of financially, and I understand why. It's the same. I don't buy other people's art because I really can't afford it. I'm a struggling artist, and it's not that I don't support the work. I'll like it, favorite, share it, all that good stuff, because I really do like it. I just can't afford to buy it because I'm also trying to do the same thing they're doing, which is trying to make money. So it's kind of like it's robbing Peter to pay Paul in a sense. What I need to do is kind of, obviously get fans that are artistically inclined to buy my stuff. But again, I don't have any really non-art friends locally. A handful of people that are not artists that would buy my stuff. But again, on top of that, who's going to go to a convention? Most of them will just contact me beforehand. Who's going to pay a $10 ticket to go to a convention to meet me when they already know me? They can just contact me on Facebook and say, "Hey, I want a sketch. Can you do a sketch for me?" So there's really no point in them going to a convention to see me. So everybody I would know that would ask for a sketch isn't going to a con. So why would I pay $200 for a table or a booth just to people say, "Oh, nice work," and then walk on and not buy anything? Because that would be a waste of $200 right now. But like I said, I really think if I went to Sacramento, I think there'd be some artists, some people in Sacramento that'd be like, "Oh, awesome, you do Trixie Dynamite," and then they'd care. All my friends here on the East Coast are, there's quite a few of them that follow what I do in Trixie, and quite a few of them actually friended Trixie. And I'm supposed to be buying a bunch of issues for my friends so I can do a massive order, get about 20 here to the East Coast or whatever, and then start giving, selling to my friends here. Basically do like an order for them. But again, except for my friends, no, it's not like I can go to a comic book store and say, yeah, I have Trixie Dynamite, and somebody in my local comic book store would be like, oh yeah, I know that book. Probably not. It's usually only getting out here because of my word of mouth. So, and I'm gonna probably, like I said, be mean to buy issues because I've got people that have paid me already to do a pre-order for Trixie, and for issue 1, I still haven't bought it. Thankfully, Ben's got the link up so I can actually order it, but I just keep forgetting to put the order in, to my shame. And man, this page is kind of flying. The only difference between this and the Injustice page, again, is like I said, the Injustice page pretty much had a lot of blacks. And this has a lot of like lines. There's a lot more concentrated brushwork where I have to be careful how the line looks, because the line's sitting out there for the world to see. That mesa was fun. See if I can show you the mesa. There's one behind it. I'm going to do the lizard next probably too. That was a lot of fun. It's got that little awesome line work and stuff. It's always fun to get these ragged stuff. I mean, clean ledges and stuff, they look nice, but they're really hard to make them look good and clean. But the really rough and edged, jagged stuff's a lot of fun because there's a lot more artistic leeway, which is really fun. There's a couple opportunities in Trixie 3 from the other artist. I forget his name. It starts with an S. Ben will probably have to tell me again. It's buried in my messages somewhere. Where he did this line on Trixie's little kind of shoulder pad. She's got these I don't know what they are. They're just like, they look like, to me, they remind me of 80s shoulder pads, like women would have in business suits. Imagine if she took her jacket and turned it inside out. If you had an 80s jacket with built-in shoulder pads, turn it inside out. That's kind of what they look like, these kind of pointed epaulets on the edge of her uniform. And he did this like squiggly line right on the shoulder. If I can shake my shoulder, like right here. And so I just literally took a brush, went, and it looked great. That's one of those moments where it's like, yes, this kind of line was built for a brush. Oh man, see, I love when I do those little marks and it's like, oh, it looks so beautiful. Another trick too about inking is the stiffer you are with a line, the more you'll notice that it's stiff. That's what makes these other rough and jagged things so fun, because you do them loosely and you can tell they look better because they were so much looser. It's always the stuff that you're always so stiff and careful about that looks stiff, like you're being stiff and careful. It transmits very well on the page what kind of arm motion you used. So the stiffer you are, usually the more artificial it looks. So it's kind of hard to do something that's not stiff, and yet it has to be really tight line work. It's always a struggle because you always have to kind of find a balance between being loose and being controlled, and that is a tough balance to find. That's always a tough balance to find. But the stuff we can be looser is a godsend, because then you can sit and just play around with the brush instead of just like sitting there going, oh my gosh, is it going to look good? You can just go bloop, 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 draw a couple lines, and you're good to go. It's just so much more fun. It's so liberating to just like playing with the brush for a little while, and not have to worry about, okay, what kind of line is it going to make? Just like, okay, don't care, it's rock. And then it looks like beautiful because you didn't care, because you were loose and you're free and it all came off the brush easily. And like I said, that stuff transmits. You can tell, or at least I can tell, when the artist was having fun with the brush. And at least when I can tell in my own work where I was having fun and where I was like, hold my breath, take a deep breath, hope it comes out right. And again, some stuff it's a little bit easier to do it with. You can find a way to be that kind of loose with the stuff that needs to be more controlled, but it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice to do that. To find the balance between, like I said, between control and just fun having at it sort of kind of feel. It takes a lot of practice. And that might be why a lot of people would say, man, your work is awesome. I'm like, is it? You know, I'm always constantly surprised by people that are like, wow, you're amazing, you're incredible, you're a great inker. I'm like, am I? Because, I mean, I'd like to think I am pretty good at inking. People have paid me for my inking skills. Ben pays me for my inking skills, so I'd like to think that I'm professional in that sense. You know, the old saying, the definition of professional is that somebody pays you to do what you do. I think that's more than that. That just means that's what you do for a living. I think being professional is how you act while you do what you're paid to do. That is professionalism. And how well you know your job. Because a lot of people that get paid to do something, they don't know their job very well. And that's not professional. That's just a living. That's just making a living. It's not being professional. Being professional is how classy you act while you do what you get paid to do. And I think that is the definition of professionalism. And you have that one for free. No, I'm kidding. As I spew forth my philosophy, inking. Man, this page is a lot of fun. I am not going to lie. It's kind of fun to be inking Trixie on a day off. Is that way off your... That is way off your field of vision. Hold on, folks. It is really fun to be inking Trixie on my day off rather than between phone calls at work. Trixie's a good diversion while I work, but it's kind of nice to be devoting my time towards it more exclusively instead of just between when I'm not being frustrated with marketing. It's kind of really nice. Oops, somebody did something on Facebook. Hopefully I'm not about to lose internet connection. Hopefully that wasn't my sister saying, oh, you're losing internet, because she was tuning in for a while to do a kind of a line test for me. And what happened? Oh, my link. Oh, yeah, so I shared this awesome picture of these guys that are professional superheroes, heroes for hire, Higher, who were working with this kid that had cancer at age 4. Well, the kid died, and they showed up at his funeral, and they were pallbearers at his funeral. And what they did was they did this most awesome thing. They came to the funeral in full superhero garb, and then when they carried the casket, these cosplayers that were the heroes for hire, they took off their masks in respect for the kid. And a lot of people were like, this is fake, and well, a couple of people were saying that because you know how you get on the internet, people say pics it didn't happen kind of stuff. Well, somebody provided a picture from the funeral before they took the masks off and says, it's not fake. Here's another picture from the funeral. This is not photoshopped. This is not manipulation. This is really an awesome group of people. And there was so many great statements on that page about those guys and about what they did. When somebody said a superhero is not a costume, it's the man who wears it. And I was like, wow. There's just so many profound things that are being said about that group. And I think it was a beautiful thing. I think, like, for example, like the 501st, I think they're amazing when they do those charity gigs and stuff. I don't know how much of a publicity stunt that kid was, but I think it was an amazing thing. Whether it was a publicity stunt or something, I don't know. But I just think the whole thing was kind of cool. I just think in general, people that use cosplay for charity work, especially for little kids, is amazing and super cool. Pardon the super pun, but I really do think it's super cool. You've got people that are regular Joes doing important things. And that's another thing too. I know that maybe you guys aren't watching me live. There might be a lot. The fact is, I'll have more viewers of this. Legacy just says this. I mean, I'm going to have more viewers watching this after the video is done than while it's happening, because the few people that can see it are either watching it or they're not. And then there will be people that will watch this on YouTube without even knowing who I am first, going, wow, look at this, cool, after the broadcast is over. But, and I don't know how much you guys are going to see of this, but I figure, hey, what the heck? I'll make everything I say very important. That way if you tune in like 30 minutes in, you're like, what the heck is this guy saying? You back it up and you say, oh, okay. This is what he's talking about. Because I've had a lot of people, a lot of my friends that have watched the videos, and I've always, literally every friend that's watched this, I've told them, I'm sorry, because I know it's a 2-hour video. And I told them, literally, I'm sorry. He's like, no, I didn't watch the whole thing. And I was like, oh, okay, good. Because I think to myself, who would sit there and watch ink dry for 2 hours? Live is one thing. Live is one thing. Because if I was watching somebody live, if I had a question, I'd be like, hey, about this, hey, and talk about it live with the person. But, I don't know if I'd watch a 2-hour demo. David Yardin did a smart thing when he did his X-Men demo. He did a page from blank paper to inked page of Colossus Origins at his page. I think it's David Yardin. It's Yardin, Y-A-R-D-I-N. I can't remember if it's David or Daniel. I'm pretty sure it's David Yardin, who did the Injustice page I did. And what he did was he videotaped the whole thing, and then after the fact sped it up at a high factor of like 10. So a minute's like a second. So you literally see his entire 9-hour process in like 9 videos across like a 2-hour span, which is great because you get to see the whole process, but you don't get to see the detail like you would with a live feed. And I'm going to go get clean water. Take a quick break on that and get some clean water because you should see the water on that. It's pretty gross. All right, I'll probably be inking for another 30 more minutes. Probably stop around 2-ish, and then I'll probably come back around 3 for more of a marker demo. Was it that fast? Interesting, okay. Because there's another thing. Okay, well anyway, I'll probably stop around 2, so I'll probably be on for another like 30 minutes doing this. Because I have to go do something at 2-ish, so I'll probably continue working on the rocks and all this stuff, and I might get to the iguana. Hey, that's not bad. That's about half the page, which I've always wondered how fast I could work with Trixie if I actually knuckled down and did it. I really have done Trixie more between phone calls at work. So I've really never tested my abilities to do it really fast on a Friday. Usually I sleep in on Fridays. But that's the good thing about these broadcasts. It motivates me to get up and moving and get working on a page and knuckle down and literally get ahead. Because now I'm about, issue 3 is not even printed yet, and I haven't even finished issue 3 yet. I'm still waiting on new pages. So I guess issue 4, Alexander X, I got a little bit ahead, which is kind of nice. Ben had already kind of contracted me for. To do like when it came across he was going to do more issues, he was like, hey, and sent me this contract that listed for issues 3 and 4. I was like, you're going to do a couple more issues? He's like, okay, yeah, of course I'm going to do more issues. I was like, cool, glad to be a part of them. But the funny part was that when I got issue 3, he's like, oh, are you free to do issue 3? And I was like, Ben, you sent me a contract for issues 3 and 4. I signed the contract, and his reaction was, oh. Okay, cool. I mean, here's a guy who sent me a contract who wasn't even expecting me to hold up to it, which is kind of, again, it's nice. It's really kind of cool to have an editor like Ben who's like, I'm reminding him, hey, look, I'm under contract to work for you for the next couple issues. He's not a taskmaster, which is, again, another reason I love working on Trixie Dynamite. First of all, it's a fun book anyway. I mean, you see the kind of pages I get. If you haven't seen all of them, I share a lot of them in my DeviantArt, which is, BauerPower2477.deviantart.com. If you ever know how to spell Bauer, just look up Jack Bauer, and that's why 24. Now it says Bauer Power, Bauerpower, So it's like Jack Bauer, because I was a huge fan of 24 when I created that tag. I still am a huge fan of 24. I just haven't seen the last couple of seasons. I kind of fell out because something happened in my life personally around the time that 24 season 6 and 7 came out. I found my girlfriend, which wanted to be my wife. So kind of got sidetracked for a while, dating and stuff, which is okay. Because 24, you can buy it on DVD. You know, it's on Netflix now. Well, it used to be on Netflix. They pulled it because they're about to say 24 die another day, live another day. Excuse me. So I was a big fan of 24 when I first came up with my DeviantArt account, and it sat fallow for like ages. I just let it sit there because I didn't have anything to share on it. Plus, I was kind of shy to share art online. I was afraid that people were going to steal it and make money off of it. Then when I really learned the true nature of the internet, I was like, yeah, no one's going to steal this. Let me share art on there. So I shared a couple things on there, and I've become more active on there. But I have a whole portfolio of stuff on there, and including some pages of Trixie Dynamite, especially under the inking stuff. And there are some inked pages of Trixie Dynamite side by side with the original pencils on my my Jason Enos comic art page. And so you can see that, facebook.com/Jason Enos comic art. It says comic art even though I'm not just a comic book artist, because Jason Enos art was already reserved for somebody. So yeah, that guy struck again. I share the same name with a video game designer who worked on Dance Dance Revolution, among other things. So he's already got jasonenos.com, jasonenos@gmail.com, jasonenos@yahoo.com. Yeah, so I've had to be a little creative about how I use my name online, because this guy is everywhere and he's shared his name and taken all the .coms, which made me want to say notes. Which, if you know rules of engagement, you'll know what I mean. David Spade, when he's frustrated, will say nerds, and that's kind of the way I was. I was that same kind of frustration level. I joined the internet game too late and lost out on all the .coms. That's okay. Now I've got Jason Enos comic art, so it's pretty easy to find. So I have a public face before con season starts. So if somebody says, "Oh, hey, cool, I like your stuff. You're a really cool guy. Great. You can follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/Jason Enos comic art." So it makes it really easy. That way I can have followers of my art only, even if you don't know me, which is kind of nice. Have you been able to see that mushroom the whole time I've been working on it? Again, I'm always worried that you're not seeing what I'm doing. The whole purpose isn't to sit here and listen to me flap my gums. The purpose is so you can see my art. I'm happy I've got so much of this page done. I was always worried about how fast I could do a Trixie page. Apparently, if I knuckled down and I had a day off, I could do a lot. I mean, 2 hours time, I've almost got the top and bottom of the page done. I mean, if I get my crow quill to do the little bubble things, you know, this panel would be done. And this one's one of the more complicated panels, and this one's almost done. I mean, it's about halfway done. If I if I had more time to work on it, I'd probably be kind of done really quickly with it. I'm doing the lizard's tail just because I feel like doing it. Those spiny things, I might have to get my little tiny brush out on. These little circle things on the mushrooms, I'm probably gonna do those in pen, because there's little tiny circles, you can't see them, but it's really hard to do tight circles with this brush, I found, unless there's a technique that I just haven't found. This kind of brush doesn't really convert well to doing little tiny circles or ovals. That's another thing. Ovals are a pain, because there's no really good oval template, because you think circles are hard. I was like, oh, a circle template. You just get a circle template on it. Yeah, that's great. The problem is you expound your problems when you start talking about a oval, because not only do you have different like widths of and ovals have two problems. They have not just a length but a width. So there's really no good template tool for an oval, because there's different ratios of lengths to widths and different sizes of them. So there's really no template available for an oval. There's templates available for certain ovals, but yeah, good luck finding the right one. That's why I've never even bothered to buy an oval template. To me, that's the worst kind, is perfect ovals, because there's really no way to ink them. unless you just freehand them or get a curved tool and hope for the best. There really isn't a good way to ink them with it. There's no guideline for them, and I've never been good at freehanding them. I'm sure it's a practice skill, but to me it's like a practice skill of torture. I really hate doing ovals. I'd much rather do something more organic. In fact, that was the beautiful thing about doing Trixie. Just as a kind of a side note, the first Trixie I did all digitally, and that's because I didn't have a scanner large enough to do the comic book art to justice. Plus, I wasn't confident with my skills with a brush. I was worried, I won't be able to make a good brush. And then, so I did it all digitally, so I could do it where it would be already in a digital form. I didn't have to scan it or, ink it, scan it, and all that stuff. So it saved a step because now I didn't have to worry about, having a scanner the size. Or I didn't even have a printer that would do the size paper either, so I had no way to print out pencils, and I had no way to actually scan the art when it was finished. So I did all of Trixie 1 all digitally. And it meant any ovals, it was easy to do. All I had to do is just grab out, go to Illustrator. I did it all in Illustrator, started my line art, and just went to town with the oval tools. So doing those kind of perfect shapes, and it worked perfectly too, because almost all of my story on issue 1 was set on Dynamite Station. So it had all these wonderful, like, space age kind of rooms. So it kind of made sense to have this clean, hard line, because we're on a space station. So anything kind of with hard edges looks like a space station anyway. It looks futuristic and pristine, and that was kind of the goal. But it did kind of suffer a little bit when you get to like Trixie, because I did my best to make it look more dynamic. I really did. Luckily, I had Creative Suite 5 access. Was it 5 or 6? Can't remember what I had at the time. It was the Creative Suite that lets you do the line tool, the different line widths. So that helped out a lot, because I could change the line widths. So I would do that. I would make the line widths more organic. So instead of looking at a hard and fast Illustrator line with a consistent 1 pixel width, or 10 pixel, whatever it was, I would change it up. Not just change the thickness of the lines for different contours, but change the thickness within a shape. So I would change, like, to be a line that would be thicker at one point and narrower at other points. So it made it look more traditionally inked than photoshopped. I mean, than digitally done. But it still looks kind of artificial and stiff. There's just no way around it. Digital looks digital, unless you use like a Manga Studio and a little brush, like a Wacom stylus or something. So it did kind of look artificially to a certain point. That worked out okay for issue 1, but I just wasn't satisfied with doing everything digitally. So I tried out for another book, didn't make it. The funniest part is they said that they didn't like the way I inked the expressions, which I was like, not to draw too much offense, but I'm not supposed to be making corrections in the pencils. I mean, an inker to me, you do make corrections, but if you're saying you don't like the way I ink an expression, that means you didn't like the way it was penciled and you just wanted me to fix it? On a side note, this is the first time I've had to use any whiteout, and it's probably because I'm using too big of a brush to ink these little tiny points. And also on a side note, if I go to Dollar General, I know what I'm buying. More whiteout. Anyway, my whiteout's getting pretty crummy. But there you go, Jonathan. If you're watching, there's what I did right there. You see it? That's how you make a correction. A friend of mine was asking, how do you make a correction if you just accidentally put a line where you don't want it? I said whiteout, and I'll probably do that. Ooh, got some whiteout on the brush. Not good. Not good. I was hoping it'd be dry by now, but it wasn't. Never used whiteout on this brush, so hopefully I can get it out. Anyway, so my friend was asking, how do you make a correction if you make a mistake? I'm like, just general whiteout. Some artists use paint. Some use correction fluid. It's called, correction fluid is whiteout. Some use white ink. Some use white paint. Whatever works. Sometimes I just leave it in the final stage and just Photoshop it out. Sometimes I'll do that. Because, I mean, you're not, as long as it's gone by the print version, it's not like going to matter if it's, as long as it's gone by the time you actually go to print, it's okay when you do it. I usually try to use as little as, with Trixie, I don't mind using whiteout. If I'm going to do a portfolio piece, I don't want it to have too much whiteout. With Trixie, I want it to be perfect, even if the art doesn't look good in real life, because chances are you're not going to see the art in real life. I have a whole stack of drawings in the other room that are all the Trixie pages I've inked. And I've often wondered, hey, if I go to a convention, would anybody care to see those? I've often wondered if I just show up in Sacramento one day, walk into ECB, and just go up to Ben and say, look, this is the original pages. If that would be anything kind of awesome or not. Part of me the reason I haven't done anything with them is because if I need them for the future, not for portfolios, but just in general, if Ben ever needs them for like a reprint or something, I want to make sure that I've got them where I can clean them up to my standards, because like I said, I've invented kind of a new method of doing cleanup. So today's scanned pages would be a lot better than the past scanned pages that I've done. So if ever he needs the pages again, I want to make sure if I send him a scan, it's going to be a much better scan than I've ever sent before. So I always leave that kind of in my inbox of stuff. Otherwise, I would have sent him probably all the original inks just so he'd have them for who knows what, But at the same time, like I said, I don't know if I'll ever need them for anything to send them back to him for any reason. Like if he says, hey, can I have a scan of this so I can make a print out of it? Then I can say, okay, cool. And I can actually go back and scan the original thing and make it real clean for him. And that's why I really haven't done anything with them, because I'm like, maybe somebody would like to buy them. And I'm like, first of all, I don't know if I can sell them. Second of all, I don't want to, because if I do, then what happens if I need to reprint them? Then I have to find the person who had it originally and read the page, and I ain't going to do that. I'm not going to track down somebody and say, hey, I need to borrow that ink that I sold you, the inked page. No, I'm not going to do that. I know there's a lot of professional artists that will sell their inked pages, but only after like the anthologies come out. Like if they have an anthology reprint come out, they'll sell their art afterwards. And I understand why, because once the anthology's out, they've got it forever. But you don't want to sell it until at least after you've done that, because what happens if you need the art again or anything? Which reminds me, like, what they do with Absolute Watchmen. Because Absolute Watchmen is not the original Watchmen that was published. Which I'm not complaining about because I like the way it looks. But they did a lot of cleanup work. Watchmen was already plagued with a couple delays at the very end. But there's a couple places where Dr. Manhattan Blue bleeds out the other parts of the comic, and there's a couple art things that are kind of not so pretty. So what happened was, when they came up with Absolute, they said this is our opportunity to clean it up, make the arts and the colors all beautiful, and they did. But the fact is, it's technically a different version than was actually printed, because the printed version is this kind of ugly, oops, quick, hurry up, let's print it, we're late kind of printing. And which is not bad, because in the world of publishing, you have to get stuff cranked up pretty quickly, or you lose viewers. It's a business, It's a business that also happens to involve art. And art doesn't like deadlines, and businesses do, so it's kind of always a conflict. Which is why I like that Ben doesn't really worry about that end of the business things. He doesn't go, oh, we're missing a deadline. He's pretty understanding about those sorts of things. Speaking of ovals, here comes my arch nemesis, the oval. But it's Inkman and his arch nemesis, the oval. That's literally would be my nemesis if I was a comic book hero. But anyway, that's the one thing I like about Ben. He's not really choking down, barking down my neck about deadlines. And the comic book world kind of is about deadlines. And a lot of times art has to be compromised for the sake of deadlines. And that's what I like about these Absolute editions, because they go back and they go, okay, well, how can we make the art perfect? Because there's nobody waiting on Watchmen once it's already been published. Can you see that well? I think you can't see it very well at all. Let me see if I can engineer that down. Am I over here? Nope, too far out. Let me back it up a little bit more. There we go. There we go. So in the Absolute editions, you're dealing with a situation where the book's published, and they just want to make it as pretty as possible. So, the world's waiting on it, but, Obviously, they've got all the time in the world. They can set their own deadline. It's not like they need to put an issue out a month. So again, they can clean it up, fix any errors, just make it all around good. And that's the cool thing about those kind of things. But in the real world, when they're waiting for a book to be published, it has to be out fast. And so there's errors. So a lot of artists will hold on to the original inks and not sell them to collectors until after that kind of like final printing has come up. But I wonder what happened. Did they have to go back and find the original art for Watchmen, or did like Dave Gibbons already have the original board selling around and go, oh yeah, here's all of Watchmen, let's rescan it and blah blah blah, or did they just kind of like Photoshop it and and have it handy? I don't know what they did. It's always kind of cool when you read about these stories about how they restore classic works of art, like films or records. I'm a big fan of jazz, and one of my favorite records is the Duke Ellington Live at Newport record. That was a restoration. That was a they could make a movie out of how that was restored. It was kind of interesting. They literally accidentally stumbled across a radio broadcast. It was a live concert. They literally accidentally one day stumbled across a recording that was done on another mic that was a radio broadcast. And it was already a mono record because they didn't have the stereo recording. But when they stumbled across in the 2000s, I think it was, the original radio broadcast from another mic, they had a stereo recording, which was great because they could take the one mic for the record and the one mic from the radio broadcast and get you a stereo recording for the first time. All they do is sync it, and bravo, you now have a classic live concert in stereo when it was common to just record in mono. So that was pretty cool because it's one of my favorite records, and now you got the best solo, one of the best solos in jazz, now in stereo, which was, it never been in stereo. So it's always fascinating. And also like the National Film Registry when they restore stuff, especially Hitchcock movies. I'm a huge Hitchcock fan, and a lot of his movies have fallen into severe disrepair. A lot of times they do this shellacking process back in the day. They'd shellac them, make a print, shellac them, make a print, shellac them, make another print. So that's all it's about, is making prints. Once you have a print, once you have a negative print, you can show it more often. And the one that fell the greatest victim to the shellacking process was Rear Window, which is a great Hitchcock film, and it looked yellow for years because of all the shellacking that had been done to the print in the 80s to re-release it in movie theaters. In various art houses that were still showing Hitchcock after he died. Similar things happened to Charade. Stanley Doman's Charade. It's a great movie. The best Hitchcock-like film that wasn't Hitchcock-made. They'd failed to register a copyright, so everybody made a print. And then Criterion, that art house kind of DVD company, they were like, enough's enough. Charade needs its due of restoration. They went ahead and restored it. I'm running out of ink here. I need a little bit more ink. What time is it? In about 5 minutes, I'll probably stop broadcasting. I'm going to try to get the lizard done and maybe some other touches, so I have this panel almost nearly done before I terminate my broadcast for the afternoon. I mean, I'll be back later today, guys. I will be back later today. However you found me is how I'll share links again. There's a hair that's like really straying away off course. But I will be resuming. Probably I'll be doing marker demos for Copic markers, and if I do a third broadcast tonight, I'll be back to Trixie. But there will be more broadcasts with this page. I will be doing more broadcasts, and I will be continuing with this page kind of consecutively. And I probably will be getting more pages from Ben once Free Comic Book Day is over with. And I've been sharing stuff on my Twitter about Free Comic Book Day. There was a really cool picture that had been shared by a Charlotte area person who had shared a picture of this little girl that had went to the Heroes Hard to Find store that runs the comic convention. She'd shared this really cool picture of this little girl clutching comic books like she just had Christmas, and it's really sweet. So I shared that. Let's see. I don't even know what the list of free comics is this year. I don't know if I'll be able to go. I'd like to go because a couple of my friends will be at the store. my local store, so I'd love to go. The problem is the store I think closes at 7, plus traffic, plus the fact that I get off of work at 5:30. I don't know if I'll be able to go. Oh crap, not a beautiful line there. That might need to be a whiteout situation. That one has got to be a whiteout. It's a little bit too thick. Well, maybe I can get away with it if I tweak it a little bit. Yeah, it doesn't look so bad. It's a project that required tweaking. I'll use up the rest of this ink, which is not very much, and then I will be stopping for now. One little line here. Probably some shadow lines on that. All right, there's some lines here I want to kind of address. Yeah, my next broadcast today will probably be circa 3 o'clock, plus or minus a little bit. And I will be sharing the appropriate links, again, same locations. Same exact locations, Twitter, Facebook, DeviantArt. Well, I didn't do one on DeviantArt this time. I don't know how many people watched me from the last broadcast at DeviantArt. Okay, while I've got my brush dirty, what's a good place to go with this ink? Yeah, with that, I'll just start diving into some part of the page here. Some of these other parts of the page are ridiculously easy to do. All they require is a little bit of a wiggly line. And yeah, so I'll share it to the appropriate links. Since the next one's going to be more of kind of a Copic marker demonstration, before I get back to Trixie again, I'll probably put that on Facebook with a tag of Copic. If Copic will share it, it'll be one thing. If it doesn't, it's okay. It'll be on my tags. But yeah, that's probably the next one. All right, got a little bit more ink to use up. Oops, a beautiful line there. And it'll be all right. Let's see. Sometimes you gotta sort out the lines, see which one goes where before I get too committed. See what the artist intended to do with the line. Okay. Well, I'm getting into the next panel already. So I'm going to do all this other stuff with the crow quill probably, and I don't want to get the crow quill out right now. Poor dog is pacing everywhere. You can see this, right? Yeah, good. She doesn't know what to think when I'm talking to myself so much. And the ink is almost gone, isn't it? Yeah, it's just barely have enough to do with probably to finish up this line before I close up the broadcast for right now. Yeah, the brush is starting to get kind of ugly. Yeah, we're going to stop right now. All right, let me clean the brush real quick. While I'm doing that, let me just kind of give you a quick overview of what I got with the page so far. Got a top panel, except for the crow quill work I want to do, pretty much done. I mean, obviously got the rocks on this side and the little mushroom, little dots you probably can't see. Do a little bit on that panel there with all the seaweed and stuff. And then, of course, that bottom page of the Pargonaut's almost done. The bottom panel's almost done. I might heavy up some lines up underneath here and here now that I look at it, just so I can have a little bit more punch. But a lot of it will probably be carried by the coloring, too, so I don't know how far I want to go with it. Let the colors maybe make some decisions about shadows and stuff. I don't want to be too heavy-handed in telling them what to do. Sometimes, as an inker, what you do is kind of an impact on what the colorist is going to do, and I don't want to be too heavy-handed about, hey, look, this is what we're going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break for now. I'll be back maybe in about an hour. Like I said, I'll do some Copic marker for maybe a couple hours, maybe take another break, come back with maybe this. If not, I will be broadcasting more links about me continuing this page, which I guess now is coming up about a third done. And be seeing you soon with more links. Thanks for those who tuned in. Thanks for those who will be viewing this later on YouTube when it uploads. And again, thanks for coming by. And hopefully we'll be continuing this shortly.